Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the final episode of the Shell by Shell series, where we take on all of the Hack the Box starting points machines, taking us from zero to hero in penetration testing. At least the fundamentals and the basics, that is. So here we are, the final machine, the last episode, Unified. I'm not going to waste any time here with the sentimentals. Make sure you're following along here using your sudo openvpn command that we learned at the very start. And then starting your machine, I already have my machine started, so I'll copy our IP, hop over to desktop 1, and we will get cooking. I'm going to make a new directory called hackthebox. In my hackthebox starting point T2 folder, and it's going to be called, I actually kind of forgot what this was called, Unified. Unified. I'm going to cd into that directory, and then I'm going to run the nmap scan that we all know and love very well. One last time to go over it, -T4 makes it an aggressive scan, so we're going to be flying through ports, scanning pretty aggressively, so it'll just get the nmap scan back to us quicker. -A, so this encapsulates -SC for default scripts, -SV for enumerating versions, and -O, which enumerates operating system information. So we're just going to get back a ton of information about this remote host. Obviously, this is the IP we were given, and we're going to output it into an nmap.txt format. While we wait for that to run, we can open Firefox, and I'll just throw the IP into our browser and see if anything comes back. It says no. We get a error. It automatically redirects to HTTPS, so maybe there's like, what if I specify port 80? And obviously this is just all guesswork because I'm going to be bored until the nmap scan comes back. So no port 80. Another one is 8080, or like I'll do 8000. All just default ports. 8080. Okay, 8080 redirects to something. So I put in 8080 and it redirects us to 8443, and I'm sure our nmap scan will show this soon. I'll accept the risk and continue. And we get a login page for UniFi 6.4.54. So the first thing I noticed on this website, well, the first thing I really noticed is that the strange behavior. So we originally navigated to 8080, but it redirects us to 8443 and a login page, and it uses HTTPS. So interesting, uh, interesting redirect here. But what's even more interesting is the version number of UniFi here. And UniFi, I believe, is just like a AP manager, an access point manager for networks. But if I search UniFi 6.4.3 exploit, we can scroll down a little bit and we see that there's a CVE associated, but I'm going to be attracted to this Rapid7 article. So Rapid7, or I'll open this. Rapid7 is the company that makes Metasploit, and I don't recall if we've used Metasploit in this series yet. We probably have once or twice, but Metasploit is essentially just a C2, and it's really nice. It holds a ton of exploits, a ton of different modules that you can use for a wide range of technologies. So we, uh, what I'm trying to get to here is Rapid7. If you see a Rapid7 article that links to a CVE, that means that there's a Metasploit module for it, which makes the exploitation process super easy. So before I jump into this, I was gonna say I wanted to wait until our nmap scan finished, but it looks like it did. So fantastic. So let's see here. We got SSH open, 6789. That's interesting. IBM D2 admin. I want to look up what that port is because I don't think I've ever seen that before. Port 6789. Attack activity. Test for UniFi mobile speed test. Okay, well, I guess that confirms UniFi if we didn't know it already. Here's the 8443 we saw here. So this is the login page, and it's running Nagios. And then that's it. So, oh, and then here's 8080, which redirects to that page. All right. So nothing we didn't already know except this port here, which just confirms it's UniFi, and obviously SSH, which is usually open. So I think we're just continue down the same path here. So we found a vulnerability, and I know we're kind of going pretty fast here, but we found a vulnerability for, or a supposed vulnerability for UniFi version 6.4.54 in this Rapid7 article. And I'm going to show you how easy, like ridiculously easy this really is. So I'll minimize this. MSF console. That'll open the Metasploit framework console. Um, and that's pretty much what it is. It's just a framework for exploitation. Um, and it looks pretty easy. We just use this pre-made exploit. We show and set our options, and then we're off to the races. So we'll just copy paste here. Copy, paste, show options. And this is and if you want to read into the CVE, by the way, I highly recommend it. Usually I don't show the breakdown of the CVEs in this video, like in these kind of videos, because they're walkthroughs of the boxes, and I want to demonstrate the techniques and sort of the thought process of attacking these boxes. I don't really want to. This isn't the place to go into detail of this particular CV and log4j and stuff like that. So I highly recommend like going through an article like this, just seeing how it impacts like UniFi and how they discovered it and what technology is in use and all that kind of good stuff. Um, I don't want to encourage just point and click hacking in the sense of, hey, I'm just going to point Metasploit at this and click exploit and hope it works. Try to understand why it's working and what kind of misconfiguration the UniFi folks did in order for this to work. So we're going to have RCE here in a little bit and try to understand why that's happening and what went wrong in the development process and the configuration process to let that happen. Because I do not want to encourage this kind of script kiddie hacking where it's you just point Metasploit at something and hope it works. Um, but I don't think that this is the proper video and the proper video series to go into each and every exploit. So that's why throughout this series I've been very brief regarding certain exploits and especially CVEs because like the research is already out there. You just have to go read it for yourself. And I'm not the most qualified person to be explaining those CVEs because I didn't find them. But yeah, with that little rant over, let's point Metasploit at something. We're gonna use set our host to be. If I got the IP already, this is a common theme throughout the series. Set our host to be that IP. Our port looks right. Server host is our local host, so set serve host to be 1010. Oops, 10 10 15 46. Set, and the L host is going to be the same thing. So for minimal explanation, this uses LDAP, and we need an LDAP, like to stand up an LDAP server, which is going to be run on 389, and our local IP here. So that's why we're kind of setting it twice. And I believe that's all we need to do. So let's just run exploit. See, it's starting the reverse handler here. The target is vulnerable, delivering the attack. This is the log4j attack. Command shell opened, server stopped. So it doesn't look like we don't have a shell yet, but if I full screen here, make it a little bigger, and I type ID, we see we get input. Right? PWD, who am I, ls, cat etc password. We have a shell on the remote machine. So great. That is absolutely great. And we are the UniFi user. Here's the current directory we're in. If I go lsla, we have a few interesting things. So we've got logs. I may look at logs. We could upload linps to this, but I don't think we need to at this point because our shell is so unstable. There's no Python, right? There's no Python. There's no netcat. So it's going to be hard to stabilize our shell and even upload files. I guess we do have a interpreter shell right now, so we can use the upload functionality, but I'm not sure how well that will work. For now, let's just try to live off the land and see what we can get here. So I'm going to go into web apps because that's probably where the web app is being hosted. Root. Let's go into app UniFi. And nothing here. Maybe I'd look into this, but maybe not really seeing much here. I want to look at the logs actually. CD UniFi log. Okay, we got MongoDB, so there's a database running here, and a server log. Let's cat out the MongoDB log. That's a lot of stuff. Let's scroll up to the top and see maybe there might be like credentials being transferred in the log that it picks up or something of use. So I'm just going to quickly go through this. Connection. This is all kind of just UUIDs with the ACE database. Scroll down. I just want to try to find connections and any like passwords that maybe are being transferred through the network that the logs pick up. So we see the bind IP on 27.117, which I think is default for MongoDB. Let me check that out real quick. MongoDB default port. So the default port is 27.017. So this is a non-default MongoDB port. So it's binding on, well, let's see what 117 is, or yeah, so 27.117 port. Very helpful, thank you. What runs on 27.117? UniFi controller, data ports, and MongoDB. Primarily used by the UniFi controller software to manage its local MongoDB database. Okay, fantastic. So that gives us a lot more context and understanding of how this is working. So it looks like somewhere in the log there's someone or something connecting to the local MongoDB database on port 27.117 in our current file path. So we probably can do the same thing and explore the MongoDB database. Same thing here. Same thing here. Okay. So let's try that. Same thing here. All right. Let's try, see if Mongo's installed. It is. Okay, mongo-h. I'm going to try not providing a username and password and just see what happens. Port. So we can provide a port because when we just ran Mongo, it tried to connect to the default port. So maybe we just go mongo -- port 21, what was it, 27.117. And I think we're in. Show, or DBs maybe, or DB. Okay, we're in the test DB. What is it? Show DBs? Okay, so we have 5 databases in this MongoDB instance, but there's only one filled. So only the ACE database, which is, I think the ACE database is what correlates to MongoDB ACE database. I think that's UniFi. Yep, UniFi controller. Okay, so that's where we're gonna want to look. So let's use ACE. And then if we run the DB command again, we will be on ACE. And then some of the syntax is you're going to have to look up. So like before this video, I did a quick just review of MongoDB, and we can do a, actually I had a ChatGPT session where I'm like, hey, give me the common MongoDB commands for enumerating a MongoDB local instance. So I recommend you do the same thing and try to just follow along as best you can, but also learn some syntax while you're here. So I'll do show collections, which is essentially just listing the tables in this database. And the one that stands out right away is admin. Admin, and there's a few others, but pretty much like admin and payment. If we're an actual malicious actor, we want to look at this. Rogue routing, user group, but the one I want to look at is admin. So we can db.admin.find, and I think that's the correct syntax, and it prints all disgusting, so we can do that in the pretty, so we can prettify it. db.find.admin.pretty. Oops, other way around. db.admin.find.pretty. And there we go. So it prints it out in nice JSON. And as you can see, right away we have admin hashes, or maybe not admin hashes, but these are user hashes. So we have James, Warren, Seamus, Michael, and if we scroll all the way up, let's see if there's anything at the top. And we have the administrator right here. We can try to grab the administrator hash in all of these hashes. This is like SHA 256, I want to say. Hashcat examples. Let's see what Hashcat says. So it's $6 SHA-512. Okay. What is 256? I'm curious. SHA-256. I wasn't even close. Oh well. The more you know. So that is a SHA-512 hash. The $6 is SHA-512. And we can try to crack this with Hashcat, but I'm going to tell you now they're not crackable just to save you some time. It's always worth it to go and attempt to crack these, but these you cannot crack, at least with RockU and a few other tests. But with my local poor desktop PC and not a cracking rig, it was unable to crack these hashes. So what can we do if we can't crack the hashes? These aren't stored in clear text, right? There's no way to use these to authenticate to the web server that we saw. So these hashes are correlating to this web server because of the X shadow here. And remember, this is in the MongoDB database that's directly connected to UniFi. So this isn't like connected to this Unix box at all. And if we cat out Etsy shadow, you can see that, or sorry, Etsy password. You can see this. Oh shoot. Let me scroll up and see if I can find my other entry because I don't really want to leave the database. All the way up. So here we see we have root, but we didn't see the root hash. We have MongoDB and UniFi, but we didn't see either of their hashes, right? So it's just these web user hashes, okay? So while we can't crack them, there is a MongoDB feature that we can use to change the hash here, right? So as the UniFi user, we essentially have full control of this database. So we can do whatever we want. And that includes updating entries. So if we can update this entry and change it to a password like of whatever we want. Let's say we want to change this to password 123. We can then, or we should be able to authenticate to the UniFi web server with password 123 and administrator. So we're just changing the administrator's password. But as you can see, it's not stored in clear text, right? It's stored in SHA-512. So there is a way to get around that. If I press Control-Shift-R to make a vertical pane, I can do make password -m for, I think that's mode. Let's see, method or type. Okay, that's essentially just the hash type. It will say 512 and just press enter. All right, my bad. Maybe not 512. Maybe you have to specify SHA, probably SHA-512. There we go. So I specify SHA-512 and now we just type a password. I'm going to type password like 123 exclamation point, just so I can copy paste it because I've had trouble in the past of I tried typing something and it did not type correctly or I mistyped it. So I copy paste. I'm gonna do it again just to make sure. And it looks like I got a different hash. I guess that makes sense actually, make a different hash every time. Is there a space at the beginning here? There isn't. Okay. Well, I'll just take this latest one and I'll copy it. I'm going to open a mouse pad for this, or a text editor, just because the syntax can get a little a little weird. So I'm going to copy this entry here up until X shadow. Hopefully I'm copying all of it. Oops. I'm going to close this part at the end. Zoom in again. I just want to make sure I'm copying all of this. So copy, I'll copy just up to here. Copy, text editor, and paste. Okay, so our syntax is going to be db.admin. I think it's update. Let me double check this just to make sure I'm not being a silly goose. And yeah, that looks right. Okay, db.admin.update. We're going to open the parenthesis, and I'm going to try to type this out manually. On my second monitor, I do have a life raft if I need to look up the syntax, but I think we just do this, and then we're going to update based on the ID, and we can take out the name and the email because we're only interested in the password parameter. And I think we close this like that. And then we are going to use the set functionality. So the way this update command works is you sort of say what are you updating on, so like what object you're updating on, and you're updating on an object ID of this, which correlates to the administrator user, and then you're going to set, so I think it's $set, like this. You're going to set a new parameter, so what are you actually updating? And in this case, it's the X shadow parameter or the password, and I'll take away this space here. And then I will close out that, and the final DB update bracket or parenthesis. So we're updating on ID. So we're finding the object ID of which correlates to administrator. I just want to make sure that all my brackets are correct. Which looks right. And then we are setting. We don't need a space here. I'm gonna take out that space. Then we're setting the password parameter, the X shadow parameter, to the hash that we created. So this hash is password123 exclamation point. Remember, we don't know what the original administrator hash correlates to. So this is a custom created hash by us. And that's in quotes, that's in quotes. This bracket correlates to this one. This bracket matches, what does this bracket match? The set here, and then it closes out. And then I take this one away. Okay, I think this is right. We're gonna hope that the gods are in our favor when we type this out. Let's show collections again, make sure we're still in here. Okay, I'll paste it, press enter, and that looks fantastic. Okay, so now if we db.admin.find.pretty, we should see, if we scroll up to the top, we should see that this actually matches what we just put here. So it's the exact same hash. So now the admin's password is password123 exclamation point, so administrator, and then password123 exclamation point. Press enter, and we hope that it logs us in. And it says no. Let's copy paste. I'm going to copy paste password123 from the notepad, since I do not trust my typing skills. We're going to hope it logs us in. And if not, we're going to try again. I don't like how slow this website is. It looks like it is not being very friendly. Let me open a new tab here and make password again. And I'm going to paste password123. I'm going to take, maybe I won't do the exclamation point. I'll just do password 1 2 3 4 5, or I'll just do 1 2 3. Okay. I'm going to copy that. Copy. Okay. Oops, I don't even know what I just did. I'm going to take this first hash, and then fill that into our command here. Okay, copy this, and we're going to try again. Right, db.admin.update. Looks like it updated properly. db.admin.find.pretty. Scroll all the way up. And let's see. It's still. Is that our updated hash? It doesn't look like our updated hash. Maybe I didn't paste it properly? Or I'm looking at the wrong one? Oh, I may be looking at the wrong one. Here we go. Okay, this is updated. So let's try again. Add, I'm just gonna copy paste both of them. No mistakes here. Administrator, and then password 123. Paste, sign in. It's not looking good. Oh my goodness, it worked. Hooray. That is one suspenseful website, whether or not you're going to be able to sign in or not. So in the top right here, I'll make this a little bigger. In the top right, we see we do have the administrator username, current site default, and this is just the basic unified network like management site. So as I mentioned earlier, it's a access point site. So if I go to like devices, no devices, clients, no clients, stats, there's no traffic. So there's nothing actually connected to this. No events, alerts to see settings. So yeah, wireless networks. Our site here, we can scroll down here and see this. Services, remote logging. So this was the logs that we saw. Auto-optimize, device authentication. So authentication between devices and the controller. And the controller is our remote machine, remember, from those logs. So we know that the controller is our remote machine. And there is SSH authentication with a username of root, which we know is in etc password, and we know is the admin of all things Linux, and a password, which we can actually see. So let's SSH in, and we can also add a new SSH key, which we can do that as well. But if we have the password, might as well use the password. So it's SSH in as root at, gosh, I always forget the IP. Let me go here, grab the IP once again. I'll say yes, and it's asking for the password, fantastic. Sometimes when SSHing in as root, it won't ask for a password and it'll force you to key authenticate, which is the more secure way of doing it. So if you're ever configuring SSH on your own, try to do key authentication as much as you can. But we see here, we are able to successfully log in as root, and we can do an ls, and we should have, yep, the root.txt file. So that is the box, and that is the conclusion of the shell by shell series. To sort of reiterate what we just did here, so we were able to leverage a log4j CVE and get RCE on the box through an old unified version. And that's what got us this reverse shell. So I exit out of MongoDB. We see we have remote code execution on the box. We found that MongoDB is running locally, connecting to the UniFi controller, and we can interact with it through the Mongo command line. So mongo-h port 271117. We're able to successfully connect. We can list out the databases, and we can show collections in the tables and all of that. Through that, we're able to just list out all of the users, including the administrator user. But it doesn't stop there. We're unable to crack the administrator hash, but we actually can update it to our own password. So we created our own SHA-256 512 password, inserted it into the X shadow position, and then we were able to just successfully authenticate into the web server as administrator. And a nice and lovely feature that UniFi has, or at least this version that UniFi has, is storing the root SSH authentication in these settings. So as administrator, we can go to settings, check out that the SSH authentication is root, and the password is not a crackable password for you. And we can then successfully authenticate via SSH with the root password to the remote machine. And if we wanted to, and if SSH wasn't, if password authentication was enabled, we could have actually added our own SSH key, which is a not that hard of a process, but I'm not going to show it here. I'm sure we will see it in another video coming shortly. But yeah, as I said earlier, this is the end of the Shell by Shell series after we answer some questions. So let's do that, and then I'll wrap us up. So what are the first 4 open ports? Somewhere from our nmap scan. You guys can scan the ports and see that. What is the title of the software that's running on 8443? I believe this was Nagios. I guess we're gonna go back to our nmap scan anyways, so we're gonna get the answer anyways. Exit, cat nmap. So the ports were 22, 67, 89, 80, 80, and 8443. And on 8443, it was. Is that what it was asking for? 8443. What's the title of the software? I believe this was UniFi Network. Yeah, UniFi Network. So we had 22, 67, 89, that order, and then UniFi Network here. What's the version of the software it's running? So this is what we looked up for exploits. We were able to look up, if I can go back to it, I'm not sure if I'll be able to, but we were able to look up, I don't even know what the version is now because I'm in, but it was like 5.4 something. I don't know. 6.4.54. Yep. So we were able to look up that version on Google and just grab a Rapid7 article, which who are the makers of Metasploit, and then we were able to just plug and chug with Metasploit to grab a reverse shell. And then there is a CVE identified for that. That's connected to that vulnerability. It should be easy enough if you search up the version. What protocol does JNDI leverage in the injection? So if there is a way to manually do this CVE and this exploit, and to do this, again, this is what I highly recommended earlier in the video. Check out the CVE, check out how it works, and what protocol it leverages. In this case, it's LDAP, but check that out and see the manual exploit of this. So you could do it manually through, like, then you use TCP dump here to sort of put up your own LDAP server, and you put up your own LDAP server on 389 and you intercept traffic. So it's the same thing that happened in the Metasploit module. Remember, it was the SRV host option and the SRV host parameter and port. We set those to our local host IP, or not our local host, but like our box IP, so 10.10.15.46, and the port was 389, which is LDAP. So you can do this manually as well. Metasploit just makes it super easy. Like I said, you just plug and chug your IPs and your ports and you call it a day. But again, look into this exploit. It's super cool and learn something new about it. What port is the MongoDB service running on? So the default, it's 27017, but in this case, we saw in the logs, it's 27117, which is right here. The default database name for UniFi is ACE. And then what is the function we use to enumerate users within the database? Here we use db.admin.find. So admin was sort of the quote unquote table name, which we found in the collections. And we used find to just go through and enumerate that table. So that's sort of synonymous to select all from table name in SQL or something like that. So we use db.admin.find. What's the function we use to update users within the database in MongoDB? This is db.admin.update. So very similar syntax, but instead of enumerating and going through the users, we're actually updating the field. In this case, it was the X shadow field or the web password. what's the password for the root user? We found this in the unified web admin configuration. So down here, this is the root password. So not a crackable password for you two, or that could be like 2020, that could be a year. Back here, and then we just have the user flag and the root flag. So the user flag, actually, I don't know if we went over it. The user flag is in um, Michael's home directory. So I know I said in Etsy password there wasn't Michael. Um, if we scroll up, and I didn't actually show this, but in the home directory there is a user named Michael. If you go into that directory, you can read um, his home directory, and there's the user.txt flag there. So it's in home Michael, and there you should be able to read the user.txt, and obviously root.txt is in the root folder. But that is it for the box. That's it for Unified, and that is it for the Shell by Shell series. As I mentioned many times throughout this series, I'm not going to be doing the VIP boxes just for an accessibility thing, right? I want you guys to follow along every single video. I want you to learn with me every week, just something new, getting 1% better. And by putting this sort of impromptu paywall up, it eliminates that fact. So I don't really think I'm going to be doing these boxes. Maybe later, maybe I'll stream these boxes at a later date, but for this YouTube series, I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you enjoyed these weeks. It's been super fun going through all these boxes and teaching and just having a good time. Right? Hack the box. I love doing these kind of videos and this kind of content. So I'm going to continue doing it for other Hack the Box machines and try Hack Me for that matter. So check out my channel for other machines if you want walkthroughs for those, and maybe I'll venture into other content too. But this is the first series on my channel, something like this. So if you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments, and I hope you learned something. I won't be seeing you next week unless I do have something next week, but there will not be another shell by shell video until for the foreseeable future. So, but stay on the lookout for my channel, any content. Make sure to go give it some support, like it up. Any critiques from the series, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I read every single one, and I will reply to them if possible. But that is it. Hopefully you enjoyed. Have a lovely day and a lovely life, and happy hacking.